Elizabeth Gardner over in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. We're waiting for something to fall from the sky, just not sure what, when, and where.
Yeah, definitely not happening today or tomorrow. It's looking gorgeous out there, but really chilly. We take a live look at Fayetteville as well as Raleigh, Apex, Chapel Hill, all looking at bright skies. Chapel Hill, of course, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. Let's look at this wind chill again. Our temperature 35 in the Triangle, 29 is what it feels like as you're heading out the door there in Raleigh. It feels like 29 in Rocky Mount, 23 in Roxborough, 30 in Fayetteville and Southern Pine. So it is cold out there, even though it looks beautiful. And even with, some cold, winters on and off, some cold days anyway, over the last several years, we have not been able to squeeze any snow out, at least officially at RDU. Last time we had measurable snow was a little under ½ an inch, January 29th, 2022. So 1,075 days ago. It just seems amazing. But this looks more and more likely, like we're going to break that streak. It's likely to start as snow, gradually changing over to sleet in the Triangle. A little farther south, it'll change over faster. We'll see some freezing rain mixing in, starting in the south and moving northward. And in some places from the Triangle area southward, it may change over to all rain before it ends up ending. So low pressure system still sitting over here near Arizona, about 2,000 miles away. As the system continues to slide eastward, we'll continue to collect data from it. And starting tomorrow, we'll end up with high resolution data. And that, of course, helps to build confidence in our forecast as well. We'll take a look at futurecast again, starting at noon on Friday. We're looking dry. Once we take it out to around 5 o'clock, it still looks like it's fairly dry, but we'll likely end up with the potential for some snow showers to roll through. If not at the evening commute, definitely by dinner time. So keep that in mind. If you had plans on Friday evening to be out and about, to a concert or to dinner, you might want to rethink that, or at least not stay out too late, because we're going to see that snow starting and the ground will be cold. So this may start to stick pretty quickly when it falls. Down in Fayetteville by 8 o'clock, we're already seeing a little wintry mix. So some sleet, some freezing rain starts to move in. After midnight, we see that in the Triangle area. And then eventually up near the Virginia line, we may see a little sleet and freezing rain mixing in, and it could be all over by around 8 or 9 o'clock. Now, the timeline of that, who sees what, the amounts may all change. As a matter of fact, we often talk about the European model versus the American model. The European model has maybe ½ an inch of snow in Fayetteville and around 1 inch to 1.5 inches in the Triangle area northward. The newest run of the American model, the GFS, is really pulling that snow back, and really for Raleigh, it has maybe about ½ an inch. You get a little farther north and it may be, 1 inch or so, but seeing those numbers kind of shrink a little bit on the American model. Make sure you tune in to Mike this evening during our evening newscast. He'll have another new run to share with you. So this is our forecast, preliminary forecast. From Raleigh northward, we're looking at 1 to 2 inches of snow, and from Raleigh southward, it would be 1 inch or less. Ice is likely to stay at 1/10 of an inch or less, even in the southern part of the viewing area where it's more likely, and that means that we shouldn't have a lot of power outages. Really, we would want to see about 1/4 of an inch in order to see a lot of power outages, and that does not look like it will happen. So that is definitely good news. Again, as we get closer to Friday and Saturday, we'll be fine-tuning this forecast, and as I mentioned, don't forget to tune in to Mike later on this evening.
Let's get an update on the forecast today with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Hey, Liz.
Hey, all this cold air definitely setting the stage for what we could see this weekend. Just 42 for the high this afternoon in Raleigh, 40 in Durham, and 46 degrees in Fayetteville. Lots of sunshine, but it's a little bit breezy, and it's going to stay breezy overnight tonight, too. It'll feel more like mid-30s through the afternoon, and overnight, even by 7 or 8 o'clock, temperatures are going to feel like mid-20s, and then down into the teens by around midnight, and that's what we're going to wake up to tomorrow morning as well. Just really cold temperatures. Our normal low is 32. We'll be at 22 tomorrow morning, and then 31 Saturday morning. So we'll likely keep it below freezing in the Triangle, which is why we're feeling pretty confident that we're going to have some sort of wintry situation for late Friday into early Saturday. Look at this situation for tomorrow morning. The wind chill is likely to be in the teens, mid-teens, as folks are heading out the door, and our afternoon high temperature with the feels-like conditions only about 30 degrees tomorrow. So really going to set that stage with some cold air. Right back here is where the storm system is now, and that, of course, headed toward us by Friday evening. We'll take a look at Futurecast and roll it through. This is lunchtime, kind of getting a look at the wide view here. Once we get it out to the evening commute, we may end up seeing some rain or some scattered frozen precipitation at that point. It definitely looks more likely by around 8 or 9 o'clock. Just keep checking back. Of course, Mike will have new runs of the computer models, and we'll keep updating this as we get closer to Friday. This version of Futurecast is is really kind of backing off on some of the snow. You can see here at midnight the earlier run had snow for Raleigh northward at midnight, and this run has rain to the south and a wintry mix all the way up toward the Virginia line. You can see that continuing at 3 a.m. and then starting to pull out by about 5 or 6 a.m. And so that would definitely lower our potential for snow. That's just one model. We're going to see a lot of models between now and Friday, and you can expect that to change. So, I mean, look at this. Our futurecast potential for snow is really dropped off, while the European and the American still have at least an inch for us. And this is our snow forecast, at least for now, 1 to 2 inches in the north and up to an inch in the south, especially closer to Raleigh. Our ice forecast keeps it below 1/10 of an inch, which would mean we're not likely to have much of a potential for power outages, which is good news. Definitely slick roads are possible. And once we start this, the temperatures are going to be cold. So late Friday into Saturday, those roads will end up being slippery and it will stay chilly through the weekend. Ken?
Yes, it's cold out there, but nothing but sunshine right now. When we get into Friday into Saturday, we could see snow or maybe some kind of wintry mix. We have team coverage.
Yeah, that'll be the difference, right? First up is Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now with a look at the preliminary timeline and which areas are likely to see what type of precipitation, Elizabeth.
And we definitely want to stress that it is preliminary and there will be changes that happen between now and then, but the odds of winter weather happening Friday night into Saturday have definitely been increasing over the last several days and continue to do so. Here's what we'll see. We'll see snow and ice, maybe even some rain mixed in. We'll have a better chance of more snow from Raleigh northward and more ice and sleet south of Raleigh. Roads are likely to become slick on Friday night into early Saturday, maybe even through Sunday morning if we have any lingering moisture, because temperatures are still going to be cold all the way through the weekend and into next week. If we do have some areas where the ice accumulation reaches 1/4 of an inch, we'll have some power outages, but that's not looking as likely. We take a look at its futurecast, and of course, everything looks quiet for us at noon on Friday, but then we start to see the precipitation moving in. We could be dry at 5 o'clock during the evening commute, or we may already be seeing some snowy precipitation, a little wintry mix down to the south. As the overnight period goes on, by midnight, we start to see more of that changeover south of Raleigh, and then by 3 or 4 in the morning, it's moving on up through the triangle. It should be out of here by 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Again, this timeline will change, and the amounts that we may see will also likely change. That is because we're waiting to see what the exact path of the storm is. If the storm trends a little farther north, we're going to see more potential for rain and freezing rain. Scenario 2 would mean a lot better chance of more snow or sleet. Coming up, we're going to talk a bit more about the model comparisons.
Elizabeth, thanks. Highway crews in the Triangle are already out preparing the roads for winter weather. WRAL's Sean Gallagher is with the state DOT. And Sean, this starts with treating the roads.
For sure, Renee. These trucks that are here behind me, they've been here since 8 a.m. filling them up with a salt brine. And pretty soon, a lot of these trucks will hit the road, following a lot of trucks that are already out there to layer that mixture over nearly 15,000 lane miles across our area to try and make the roads safer for drivers this weekend. Now, these have 5,000-gallon tanks on the backs that get filled with that mixture of salt and water. And I'm told applying it now will still provide some protection on the roads in a couple of days. It helps prevent ice from sticking to the roads and makes it easier to remove the snow once it falls. Now, these crews are shaking off the cobwebs. It's been about 1,000 days since they last had to do something to this magnitude, and they feel confident, though, that the roads will be ready to go at the end of the week.
We can do snow and ice as good as anybody can. The trick of it is a lot of our folks just don't have the experience that you do when you grow up in it or when you experience it every day. We're looking at 1,000 days since our last snow event. And in that time, we have a lot of new drivers to the area and young drivers that this will be their first time in it. So everybody just needs to be patient, and we'll get through this.
Now, a benefit for these crews is that they have plenty of salt from not needing it for the last few years. I'm told there are 14,000 tons of salt that are available to these crews, and it's a benefit. It gets extended by this salt brine because they make it at about a 20% ratio. Now, this may sound like a broken record, but DOT is reminding drivers, take it slow. You may hear that all the time, but seriously, there are a lot of people who have not hit the roads in snow in several years here, so make sure you do that. And then to keep them safe and yourself safe, usually try to be about 200 feet back if you see any of these salt trucks or plows that are out on the roadway. That's about 10 to 12 car lengths if you're out on the roads. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News in Raleigh.
Definitely give some space. And snow is not the only precipitation we're tracking. Freezing rain will be possible as well. Meteorologist Chris Michaels shows us how that is calculated into the forecast and whether or not power outages are a concern.
Freezing rain totals, when they get up to about 1/4 of an inch, that's when power outages start to become more likely and more widespread, because that adds more weight to the power lines, right? But we're not necessarily looking at that. And one of the ways that we can forecast freezing rain is by looking at how much liquid equivalent would fall. So for every 1 inch of rain, that's equivalent to about 10 inches of snow, but it's equivalent to about 3/10 of an inch of ice. When we look at the latest data, the storm track, the speed, everything like that, the amount of liquid precipitation would be equal to about 0.3 to 0.5 inches. So if it were all snow, which it's not going to be, it would be 3 to 5 inches. If it were all ice, that would amount to about 9/100 of an inch to 15/100 of an inch. So it's likely that we stay below that critical threshold of 1/4 of an inch. In fact, when you look at most of the forecast models, they show about 1/10 of an inch of ice or less. That's still going to be impactful, especially to roads, but in terms of widespread and long-lasting power outages, that does not look likely. That's just one of the questions that we've gotten. We're fielding a lot of questions and answering them as we go along on WRAL.com. Just go to our website, search Q&A, and it'll be the first article you find.